How to buy wine. This video is going to break down how to properly buy wine for yourself in both restaurant settings and in just plain old wine shops. I'm making this video for people who are not consistently drinking wines that make them go, "God damn, this is good."
Damn, that's good!
Because that's how many of us pros drink wine, and you should be able to do that too.
Damn straight!
I'm going to break this video into two parts for two different contexts. One will be when there is a knowledgeable professional for you to talk to, and then the other context will be when there is no one knowledgeable for you to talk to. So you're probably thinking, why do I need to learn anything if there's a professional for me to talk to? There's plenty of opportunity, even when you're talking to a professional, to wind up with a bottle that you don't particularly love. Or maybe it's solid, but it's not amazing. And there's little tips and tricks you can do in your communication to make sure that you're winding up with a bottle that you find absolutely delicious. I've seen it a million times where people wind up with a bottle that they don't particularly like, and they just blame it on the sommelier or the guy working in the wine shop who gave them the bottle.
It's all your fault! All your fault!
Not understanding that they received exactly what they asked for. So let's get into that. This first subsection is about giving good information. And the biggest question in giving good information is, do you even know what you like?
What do you like?
I'm sure in your head you know what you like, and you can have a bottle in front of you and be like, oh yeah, that's what I like. But if you are forced to put into words the style of wine that you enjoy, do you really know what you're saying?
I don't know what I'm saying.
And even if you think you do, are you confident that you're using terminology correctly? Are you misappropriating the word sweetness when describing ripeness in red wines? Or are you talking about tannin when you're referencing dryness?
Freaking tannins.
It's super important that you learn how to taste wine properly and you learn what the literal technical definitions of these terms people throw out willy-nilly are. Go check out my other video where I break down wine tasting if you're unsure about any of these concepts. I'm not going to go in depth here. All right, let's get into the do's and don'ts of articulating exactly what you like to a wine professional. Do articulate the structural and flavor profiles of wines that you enjoy. Do articulate the climate that you typically enjoy wines from, whether that's cooler climates, Mediterranean climates, really warm climate, full-bodied reds. Do articulate winemaking preferences that you have. Maybe you don't enjoy new oak on wines, or you don't enjoy skin contact, or you do enjoy red wines done in stainless steel that are a little bit fresher. An example being, I enjoy high acid, cool climate, unoaked white wines. That's great information for a professional to work with. Or I enjoy unstructured, warm climate, savory red wines. Please do bring up wines you've had in the past. It's super helpful for somms and professionals to see wines that you've had before that you've enjoyed. That can give them a great leaping off point. And Vivino is actually really useful for that. It's probably the best use for Vivino, honestly, to just store wines that you've had in the past that you enjoy. And my last point is about building relationships. It really helps your journey to tasting fantastic wines consistently if you return to the same professional, whether that's a sommelier or someone in a wine shop, repeatedly and give them feedback on their previous recommendations, tell them about new things that you've tried, and just build that relationship. They will begin to more deeply understand what you enjoy, and when they get in new wines that excite them, that fit the characteristics that what you enjoy, they're going to recommend it to you. And you can also, as an added bonus, become friends with somebody. Isn't that cool?
We can all be friends.
Speaking from my personal experience, that is by far my favorite scenario, is having regulars that I see frequently that enjoy my recommendations, and I get to kind of take them on this journey. And just when there's that trust there, and they trust that you're going to give them something delicious, and you can surprise them with really out there stuff. And because they're open-minded and trusting, they might enjoy wines from you that if they just bought it blindly and had no context on, they might not enjoy it. All right, let's get into some of the don'ts.
Just fucking don't.
Don't be weirdly racist against wine. Things from certain countries do have general stylistic tendencies, but all of that loses meaning at the highest level of winemaking. And you can for sure find a wine from Chile that tastes like it's from France. Do not be absolutist about grape varieties as well. In my career as a professional somm, I have had at least one example of every single grape variety that I thought I didn't like that completely flipped my expectations and perspective on its head. The bias piece is worth touching on because of the immense amount of psychosomatic connection there is between palate and mind. And if you're carrying all this baggage about specific grape varieties, it will likely affect how you perceive taste. They've done studies on tasting coffee from a clear container versus an opaque container changes your perception of the sweetness of it, or the music that you're listening to changing how you perceive flavors. Do not bring up wines that you've had in the past that you cannot remember a single salient fact about. It is absolutely ridiculous the amount of times that working in a wine shop or in a restaurant, someone's been like, oh, do you know that wine that's like, it's got the red label? No other info. Literally nothing. You can't tell me the producer, the grape variety, the country of origin, anything about the climate, anything beyond just red on the label. There are literally millions of wines out there. That's absolutely insane to just say something so broad and expect me to understand. It is literally better that you say nothing than try and bring up a wine that you didn't have at that restaurant that you have literally zero information on. You have to be able to remember at least two things, like, oh, it was a pink label and it was from the south of France, I think. That's valid, but to just say a pink label is absolute insanity.
Must be fucking crazy.
All right, let's get into the context of there being no professional for you to talk to. How am I going to pick a bottle when there's no one knowledgeable around? Maybe there's no sommelier and your server seems a little sus with their wine knowledge, or you're at a wine shop that is not a specialty wine shop, it's just a regular old liquor store with minimum wage employees that don't care about wine. First up, let's get into deciphering labels. Now, this is a deep subject, and I'll probably make a separate video deep diving all the information that you can glean from the label of a wine, but for now let's cover some of the information that's on a label. All right, so some of the information that you can find on a wine bottle, but not necessarily all the time, would be producer, appellation, cuvée name, the vintage, the alcohol level, the grape variety, the winemaking specs, the importer. Now, I'm not going to break down all of these things. It would be way too much and it would make way too long a video, but I am going to break down probably the most misunderstood one and the most important one, especially when you're buying wine from Europe or the old world, which is appellation. Appellations are essentially government regulated regions that come with associated sets of rules about how you must make the wine in order to put that region's name on the wine bottle. So an example of that would be Bordeaux. When you see a bottle that has Bordeaux on it, you know that it must be from a certain area in France, the Bordeaux area, and that it must be a blend of at least some of the following grapes of Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, Merlot, sometimes Malbec. And there are thousands of appellations, unfortunately. And that's just what you're expected to know when you are shopping for European wine. You're expected to be able to see Soave and understand that that's going to be a fresh and aromatic Garganega-based wine from the Veneto region of Italy. Or you might see Rioja and understand that that's going to be a wine from Spain made from Tempranillo or Garnacha that sees some time in oak. It is unfortunately a memorization game.
I don't want to study.
You need to, over time, slowly learn the more famous appellations and just chip away at it. Something I'll also touch on is label style. Sometimes you can make assumptions about what the style of wine within that bottle will be based on the style of label. Maybe you're exploring Pinot Noir from France and you notice that one of the labels is a really wacky abstract art piece with no information on it. It's probably a natural wine. It's probably going to be a little funky. Then you see another bottle that is a very minimalist white label with lots of cursive on it. It is probably going to be pretty classic.
That's a pretty fucking big assumption.
All right, now I'm going to touch on how much to spend on wine, because depending on your goals, you might not be spending the appropriate amount of money, whether that's too much or too little, to get the kind of wine that you want. And I'm going to generalize massively about price point and probably skew towards more expensive because I live in Canada in an extremely overpriced wine market.
Jesus, why is it so expensive here?
For the sake of this, I'm going to break wine into 4 categories, which are going to be get me drunk, good stuff, serious shit, and iconic. I'm going to make a massive generalization here, but these are the price ranges that I associate with each of those categories. That is a massive generalization, and it totally depends on what country you are exploring. If you are exploring Portugal, for example, and trying to just have a good understanding of all the different regions and styles within the country, you can do a really great job of that, probably never spending more than $40.
Good value for money.
But if you want to have a good understanding of all the different styles and regions in France, and you can't spend more than $40 a bottle, just don't even try.
Why the fuck not?
It's not worth it. If you can find a champagne for $40 or you can find a village level Burgundy for $40, it's probably not even going to be remotely representative of the style that is important for you to understand. So yeah, if you're strapped for cash, start in places like South Africa or South America or Spain or Portugal or even Austria sometimes, but don't get disheartened if you don't have tons of money to spend on wine. You can for sure have a great understanding of the styles out there. You just have to be really smart about your buying, and you probably are going to have to lean on a professional. Good luck on the journey, and hope you build some great relationships while doing it.